Okie dokie, I'm going to do a bit of a stress test on the latest build of blocks. Starting a brand new save here. I've just gotten done cleaning up the save file API, and now, as you may be able to see by the sand here, if I leave a chunk, the world kind of refresh and fly right back to it, it does stay there. So here we go. You can already see that the updates are dramatically slowing down, but not too bad. Still chugging along. So that'll all get phased out of the world here and saved. And you can see if I draw a line of sand now, this is how fast it falls at a normal speed, 100% speed. You may be able to see in the bottom right corner, it shows how many updates are being queued per second. Every single update is exactly one block. So, you know, you place a block and it causes 7 updates. The system can handle tens of thousands of sand falling per tick and 10 to 15,000 water per tick without slowing down too dramatically. At the moment, I've got a world of 9x9x9 chunks, and each chunk is 2 to the 5th power blocks on an edge. It's not too big, but I find that it's right in the sweet spot. If I bump up the chunk size by 1 power of 2, it dramatically increases the amount of CPU needed to run the updates, and slows down the remeshing function expectedly, simply because the chunks are 8 times as big. And the world's only 9x9 to keep the world able to keep up with my rapid flying here. See, even after the chunks reload themselves in, the updates keep working. Of course, the chunks only update themselves when the chunk is loaded. So if I were to take half this mountain here, let it update for a second, getting about 7 to 10,000 updates a tick there. Now when we fly back over, you can clearly see an edge here where the chunks were loaded. I don't really mind too much, to be honest. This water has gotten ridiculous. up to 30 to 60,000 blocks updating per tick. There's supposed to be 20 ticks per second, however you can see it's slowed down to only 2 or 3, I'd guess. Still not too bad. It's now dramatically sped up actually. Of course, the only reason the chunks are able to update themselves that fast is any chunk with more than a reasonable number of updates in it will uncompress itself, and all the updates also get stored in a 3-dimensional array with block data. Keeps it from having to run through a linked list over and over again with hundreds of entries. You can see the world is just barely keeping up ahead of me here. That's one of the things I'd like to speed up fairly soon, is the world generation. When you create a new world, it's generated initially in 4 threads, but when you're just flying around, there's only 1 thread, and it does both all the saving, loading, and actual generation of the chunks, and it's gotten a little bit slow. Of course, if you're just walking around at a normal pace, it's perfectly fine. Of course, these updates here do look really blocky. That's simply just the game not updating the meshes. They do update in real time. You can see some of them update or appear to update quite quickly. That's just because they're closer to you. The middle third of the world is prioritized there. That's simply because often when you're flying around, the edges of the map will get stuck generating new meshes as the world loads in. So there's a separate thread that updates only the center of the world, the center third, or the center ninth, if you will, and that keeps all these kind of animated, if you will. I find it kind of interesting that if I turn off the cell shading here, or what is essentially cell shading, there is almost 0 performance impact. If I just sit here and let the world catch up, you can see really it's only a few hundred FPS at such extreme FPS. When it's closer to 60, it's usually only a 1 or 2 FPS hit. That's, of course, it doesn't matter how many triangles there are, it only has to render the entire screen pixel for pixel. turning updates off here just for a second, just to dig a hole in the ground. And back on. See, there are only a few simulated water levels right now. That's why things like this they have such a steep slope here. I think it's only at 8 or so now. Maybe 10. I don't exactly remember. If I turn that up, that of course will just let the water flow in, but at the consequence of updating way more blocks of water. And at the low end, I think it's perfectly fine, to be honest. See, we've flown out almost 2,000 blocks. If you look in the lower right. Spawn is at 0, 0. See, many of these chunks are now loading in quite quickly as we fly over already loaded chunks. They're stored in memory. Now at the moment, all of these chunks are serialized octrees, just kind of stored on their own. So we've gotten back to spawn here. And then they're compressed with zlib. And eventually, the save file will be stored in chunks, or in regions of many chunks, that is. And that will keep it small and multiple files, so you don't have to load the entire world to load just a single part of one area. But at the moment, zlib does a really good job of compressing this data, and I think we'll see that the world, with as much as we've flown over, will only be 10 or 12 megabytes. This is where our spawn was. This is really pushing the limits right now. The updates are also only run in a single thread, and I've just got a 2nd gen Intel i5 here, so not the fastest thing in the world. Not too bad though. And at 3 gigahertz. Of course, the modern chip at a lot less than that would perform probably better. Alright, going to save it out, check the size of the file, and we'll see. Hitting the save button now, so we'll see how long it takes. Looks like we actually had... Alright, we've actually got an issue here. So I will look into this and see what it is. Bye. Alright, I've fixed our last bug. It was pretty simple. I simply did not include a mutex on the save functions. I'm not sure if I really want to yet. I really don't need to. I just waited for the worker threads in the world.c to clean up before saving the file. Which is really what would happen with mutexes anyways. So I'm going to fly around for a little while now and get back to a similar situation of where we were, and I will see you then. Alright, I have flown around for quite a while again. See, got quite a trail to follow all the way back. Should follow it back. All the updates are still working. Of course, they're a bit slow. Some of this actually ends up looking pretty cool. All I do here is hold down the backwards button and fly around with some sand. Just kind of neat, in my opinion. Really chugging along. Alright, let's try another save here. Hitting the button now. And it worked completely well. Looks like I have a few leaks in the state engine, which I've seen a couple times before. One in here, not sure what that would be from. It looks like a chunk remesh though, actually. Well, I mean it says chunk remesh, but it's queued to be uploaded to the GPU and not actually uploaded. And these few here are actually memory leaks in SDL. There are a few when you call SDL init that just simply don't get cleaned up when you then call SDL quit, but they're inconsequential. So, alright. That's all for today. See you, YouTube.